Zuschauerinnen und Zuschauer, liebe Hundehalter vor allem, wir bitten Sie, Ihre Hunde an die Leine zu nehmen. Bitte die Hunde an die Leine nehmen. Dann bitte ich die Bahnmannschaft wieder auf ihre Kosten, damit ich die Bahnfreigabe einholen kann. des Vorschrittens. 1 minute to go.
Again, leaving nothing on the table. Nice into 15. Oh, and very late.
unterwegs, bereits am Start Penultimate Vorschlägen 2, die Bahn ist frei. Startzeit. Semicorner, Penultimate Vorschlägen 2 unterwegs. Auf der Landkarte. Telephone corner. Und da kommt der Zielschuss. 129 Schusskilometern sind angesagt.
Welcome back for a final time to the Engadine Valley. High in the Swiss Alps, outside the Tyne, as Sam Moritz. They have been racing to the village of Celerina down the valley for over 100 years. And for the first time all week, the sun has got his hat on. They claim over 300 days of sunshine in the Engadine, and today might just tick that box finally as we get ready for the four-man competition. Well, this Sam Moritz track, over 100 years old, hand-built every year in the same footprint down the mountain, but it is unique every single season. What doesn't change is the challenge of building speed and keeping it. It's a long run down to the first kink, load right here. Sometimes you'll see athletes getting in out of kink 1. This is almost absolutely flat, barely bringing speed at all into kink 2, and similarly down towards the first corner with a name, and this is wall. Now this is a 1, 2, 3 pressure corner into snake 1 and snake 2, one of the shortest transitions on the track. Down into sunny corner, and it may be sunny this afternoon. Short shoot down into Nash and Dixon, named after 64 gold medalists in two-man bob from the Sam Moritz Bob Club. Into horseshoe. Drive out here into telephone, really building speed quickly now through Shamrock, left Devil's Dyke, take a little bit of this, not too late off, and then short shoot into Nameless, and then Tree, building speed here, over 80, bridge, not under the bridge, leap, and then Gunter Sachs, and then the straight down into Martineau and Portago, crossing the crest to run. Here, try to avoid the wall, uphill through Portago, there's your finish line, and that is over a mile of natural ice track built from water and experience. And it is a fabulous location. This is Monaco, Wimbledon, Madison Square Garden, you name it. It is the equivalent in any sport of the greatest sporting venue. The most history, it's literally where the sport began, and it continues every year to draw athletes and fans and sponsors, exactly as all the other big name sporting events on the planet do. So the four-man bobsleigh competition is always the final one of the weekend. It'll be the last event. The final two heats of the four-man will be on the closing Sunday of the Cortina Olympic Games. And so they save the best till last. The biggest, the fastest, the heaviest, and in a lot of cases actually the most tricky, particularly on this track. Now, in our field, we have got 28 sleds. They all go in the first heat, and the fastest 20 go through into the second heat. First three in the start draw are from outside the top 10 in the World Cup standings, and below that, after you get the top 10, then you go in your World Cup ranking. And that will be the same for the Olympic Games. The IBSF points at the end of the season define where you start and whether or not you go. So in the scenic location of St. Moritz, let's get underway. Race 6 of the IBSF four-man bobsleigh World Cup in St. Moritz in Switzerland. The European Championships up for grabs. First sled on ice from the Czech Republic, Jakub Prochaska. Only his fourth World Cup start, his first driving here in St. Moritz. Finished 27th in the two-man, didn't make the cut. Did not race in last year's outing, but his best result this season, 20th place in Innsbruck. 5:17, first sled down every year because the track is unique, gets the start record and the track record. So whatever he does, if he crosses the finish line, it will be a new record. Prochaska, not the most experienced of our drivers. You can see already the sled skidding around behind him into Snake 1 and Snake 2. And the track will be very different from how it was on a cloudy training day, rocking and rolling from Nash and Dixon and heading down as Horseshoe rears up ahead of you. Medium-high line, decent into telephone, but it's too late. Didn't react in time. And the first sled down is our first crash. Driver and the athletes trying to keep themselves in the sled. They're doing over 70 miles an hour upside down. And it might just be that they get to the finish line right where the Omega clock is. Yes, so even upside down, they do get a track record. Now, the brakeman jumps out, Lukas Petrikovic, and he will stop the sled from running backwards. So, low line in Horseshoe, that means you usually tap going onto telephone. Telephone's under the camera here, so he gets nudged away, and he's trying to steer the sled around basically the bottom of telephone, but it takes its gravity takes its toll, pushes him up, and as the corner is finishing, the sled has not come down, and the weight of the bodies inside just roll it over. And then there's about 3/4 of a mile of high-speed ice between them and it running out of energy. And that is not a nice feeling. Well, the crew are out, and hopefully they will get away, although they're looking at their shoulders. Down there in the black jacket, Sebastian Mahata, who's running the competition here today for the IBSF. Now, as well as wearing a helmet, everybody is wearing a mandatory burns vest. It's a flexible Kevlar jacket, if you like, short sleeve jacket that you wear under your Lycra race suit. because although ice is cold, clearly, it burns. It's not the temperature, it's the friction. And when you've got all those bodies and 200 and whatever kilos of sled on top of you, pressing you into the ice, ice burns are a very nasty side effect, often of a crash. So they've attached the cable and the puller to the runners. Sled's back up on its runners, and they will pull it back up to the start. little ungainly trip back up the track, and a mandatory pause now before our next sled goes down. You can see the Tricolore there, and Simona Di Silvestri and a few of the other Italian female sliders watching from the hillside. And for the first time all weekend, the fans in the sunshine here over the start. Flags of all nations. And there they are. Every competing nation in the World Cup weekend is represented by one of the flags there around the start area. Benedict Hertel right in the centre of the shot in the two-man race yesterday with Adam Amor. Now, for those of you who've been watching a lot of the World Cup races this season, the German sleds have been in fairly dominant form. I'm here to tell you that that may not continue, not because they've been rubbish this week, far from it, but in over 20 years, we have not had an all-German podium in a four-man race in St. Moritz, and we've only had two since 2007 Worlds in two-man as well. So this is a track that mixes everything up. Everybody's got really limited experience. You can't come here pre-season, it doesn't exist. You can't come here post-season, it doesn't exist. And so everybody gets a handful of runs during the season. Even the Swiss have very little extra knowledge of this track compared to anybody else. And so if you don't come here for some reason or don't take all your runs in training, then you're losing out on experience. And look above the tree line, we're about 1,800 meters above sea level here at the start area, and 2,000 meters up plus. Beautiful day for skiing. That's not going to distract us here today though, is it? There you go, track announcer, 1 minute to go. So Mattia Variola of Italy with Fabio Batti, Alex Virgina, who's also a driver, and Mario Lumbrughi, who is on the two-man sled with him. Mario will be the man in the center of the back row, the nose tackle, if you like. And Mattia, in his 18th World Cup start as a driver. He's now actually started more as a driver than he did as one of Italy's top brakemen. He did 13 races as a brakeman. Finished in 18th place in yesterday's two-man race. Last year there were two race weekends here in St. Moritz. He was 23rd in the first race, 15th in the second. And that's what those extra few runs of experience give you. Best result this year, 24th place last week in Winterberg. He has not made the cut in four-man this season. Let's see if he can today. There he is on the right, Mattia Variola. And the visor absolutely necessary. Temperatures are below freezing, -4, -5. When you're doing 80 miles an hour in a wind of that temperature with no visor, you don't see anything, as Lisa Butvitz proved in the women's race. So getting our race back underway, Italy's Mattia Variola, the second of our 29 sleds this afternoon here in St. Moritz. Get in, get down, and again, pushing it all the way into Kink 1. 5:14 getaway, 300s quicker than we saw from Jakub Prochaska. And so that is a new start record. Now, of course, everybody knows exactly what the delay was all about. Everybody knows, like in motor racing, that crashing is an occasional hazard of the sport. It's not fun. Nobody wants to do it, but it does happen when you're pushing right to the limit. And again, Nash and Dixon, late exit out of Nash, rocking and rolling through Dixon. Good height in Horseshoe. Nicely taken down into Telephone. That's Telephone and Shamrock done well. And the result is good speed, and they're the right way up as well. But 109, 67 miles an hour. 120, 75 miles an hour. Really flying down this track. Out of Gunter Sachs, The long straight down to Martineau and Portago, 145 kilometers an hour, 90.3 miles an hour. New track record is 105.74. Is that enough to make the second heat? We will have to wait probably a long time to find out. But a decent start, 5:14. We may see starts down in the 4s. Manny Mahata there at the front, their coach, a winner on this track. And they're out of Nash and Dixon, just brought it down a little earlier. Nash out of Dixon, just skated past the wall, got onto the right side, coming into Horseshoe. That means you can widen out the curve. Big steer to come off, and then straightens it when he knows he's got that steer in, feels that he's got the response from the front, dives into telephone. That was nicely done. Next up for Poland, Jakub Żarewski, 26 yesterday in the 2-man. This is his first World Cup race on the track, only the 6th of his career. Get in, get down. Heads tucked out of sight. You can see the brakemen wriggling their way in gradually, but you've got to be really gentle here until you feel the 3 pressures of wall. Any movement in the back of the sled can cause skids. So the brakemen, even if they're loaded really uncomfortably, have to put up with it for another few seconds. Little skid through into Snake 1 and 2, and then through Sunny. The sun finally on it. A little skid out of Sunny as well. Nash and Dixon a little tidier than the Italians, but they're 2/10 back. Up to Horseshoe, hits the roof, brings it down nicely through Telephone and Shamrock, Devil's Dyke. These names all given to the track in the last century. Nobody knows what the corner numbers are. They're all names. And then through Tree, Bridge, Leap, and Gunter Sachs. Double tap down the straight, taking more speed out. They'll be ahead of Prochaska after his crash, but they will be behind Variola, 6/10 back. So 5:23 at the start and a 66.3 second run. Now, bearing in mind that when we're in Innsbruck, they're barely over 50 seconds down. This is a long track in comparison. Right up, yep, ice coming off the woodwork. Just that front bunk tap helps to nudge the nose down. It reduces the steering that the driver has to do. But of course, only experience teaches him that. Then down in the forest, out of Shamrock into Devil's Dyke. Little tap, but he's happy with that run. That must have felt nice. Next up, into our top 10 with Cedric Follador, Luca Roli, Omar Fergler, and Tim Annan, the younger of the sliding siblings. His sister Debbie sliding for Switzerland as a driver. Tim still a brakeman. Martin Annan, their dad, was here watching yesterday. I'm sure he's around at the top of the track again today. 16th yesterday for Cedric Follador. 5:12 start. Good getaway. 16th in the 2-man competition. And that was with Luca Roli behind him. 800s up on Mattia Variola. 200s from the start, and that faster start keeps you going as long as you're clean through Snake all the way down to Sunny, up to 1500s. Nicely out to Sunny, into Nash. Little flop into Dixon. Needs to come over right a little, good height. And nicely taken down into Horseshoe. Out of Horseshoe into Telephone, through Shamrock and Devil's Dyke, still with better speed, 68 miles an hour now in the forest. 122 is 75.9, 1 mile an hour quicker than Mattia Variola. Follador flying, 3,500s up, best speed of all, 90.55 miles an hour, and across the line, new track record, 105.19. That will have felt good in the back of this sled. The track is silent compared to all the others. The others thunder because you vibrate the concrete channel. Here you don't vibrate the mountains. Good height from Sedi. Just a fraction late touching the roof, so he has to really drive it off quite hard, but brings it down beautifully into Telephone. And then out of Shamrock, tiniest of touches into Devil's Dyke. That keeps the speed alive. So next up, Francesco Friedrich. 4 wins, 5 silvers, and 1 bronze medal on this track, including 2 World Championship gold medals. He is the most successful currently competing driver in the business here. Long push and a 498. There you go, into the 4s. The serious start crew haven't got the handles in. Matthias Sommer, Alex Schuller and Felix Straub on the back. The brakeman is responsible for clicking both those handles in. Now, Friedrich doesn't have rear view mirrors. He won't know it's out there. In fact, his first ever 2-man race down this track, his brakeman did not make it into the sled. He just thought the track was particularly skiddy until after the finish he yelled brakes and nothing happened. That's when he knew he'd been alone the whole time. 900s up, but he's losing time. It's not the handle. It's a little bit loose, gets tapped back in. He'll have heard something there and wondered what it was. In the red, he's behind Cedric Follador. This is the great Francesco Friedrich, 2-time 4-man Olympic champion, multiple 4-man world champion. On this track, he's had 2 World Championship golds, and he is behind at the line by a 1/4 of a second. Started 1400s faster than Cedric Follador, and Bobsleigh maths should multiply that at least by 3 as your advantage. Wow. So as they get in, watch the man at the back. Oh, Lord. Does not get the rear handles in. They're still running it down into kink 1. And Friedrich did not have control of the sled. And Felix Straub in the back. Well, actually, it was Alex Schuller at 3 who was trying to get the handles in. And he's still battering that handle. It's not coming in. It's a little bit of a mechanical problem with the FES sled. And Friedrich leaves the door open for Brad Hall, last winner on this track in 4-man. Last year in the 2 races, he had a bronze and a gold. He's also the European Championship bronze medalist from Lillehammer last year. And this is the European Championships. He was in the medals with a bronze for the first time in the 2-man yesterday. Let's look at the start. 5:08, so quicker than the current leader. A little slower, 10th slower than Friedrich's time, but 400s ahead of Follador. Follador has laid down an absolute smoker. And Brad Hall, 500s up into Snake. Nice through Snake. Got to be smooth, single pressure in Sunny. Nice, out he comes, but losing ground. Was 100th up, now he's in the red. Got to have a good horseshoe, got to have a great horseshoe. Big height, good landing, telephone, no flop. Shamrock into Devil's Dyke, skirts around low in Devil's Dyke. Only the 4th best speed. He had great speed yesterday in the 2-man, and this Valna sled should be quick down at the bottom. 3rd best speed, 3rd on the splits, but 1300s back, the speed's not there. He's going to be behind Follador, behind Friedrich. No, ahead of Friedrich, 1800s back at the line. Sean Olsen on the left, Graham Richardson on the right. The coaches, friends and family here as well. So Brad Hall with Leon Greenwood, Taylor Lawrence and Greg Cackett. Skidding here. See that back of the sled stepping out. I think the track is a little faster today than they were expecting. Great height in horseshoe. And then watch how he lands it from this height. This is like the top of the roller coaster and you dive down. And if you take it smoothly into telephone, that was not bad at all. Greg Cackett right in the back will have felt it clump down, that right rear runner. But a good run from Brad Hall, he's in the mix. Next up, Kim Jin-soo of Korea, 12th and 10th last year, 4th in the 2-man yesterday. And he's had a bronze medal in the season opener in Cortina in the 4-man. He's been on fire in both disciplines all year. 5:06, another strong start, a couple of hundreds quicker than the Brits. So second best start, second best velocity. Oh, but having a meander. Going left and right down the straight is not great, and just a little late onto wall, and a big skid off it as a result. Still skidding into snake 1 and snake 2, and this is going to remove speed. Sideways is not forward. And again, late out of Nash into Dixon, tapped into Dixon. Needs a great horseshoe, good height. Clatters the wall into Telephone, falls off the end, falls off Shamrock into Devil's Dyke. Only the 5th best speed. The track is running away from him. He's getting onto these corners quicker than he is anticipating. The rhythm he built up in 4-man training is being deceived by the speed of the track today, I think. Taps between Martineau and Portago, across the line, sideways out of Portago. 6100s back. Well, all quiet down at the bottom. But all these skids, the rear end should be following the front, and it absolutely did not. Now, whether he was just late with his steers or whether they've got fatter runners on the back of the sled than can handle these conditions, only they will know. So Kim Jin-soo in 5th place of 7 sleds as we get to Germany's Adam Amor, the 24-year-old, in his 19th 4-man World Cup. Finished 6th in yesterday's 2-man race. And last season, he was 5th in the first weekend of action and tied for 4th in the second race. Benny Hertel in the background was with him yesterday in the 2-man sled. 5th, 4th, 3rd, 2nd, and then last week 3rd in Winterberg. 5:03, still looking for his first win in the 4-man. Stay off the wall, stay off the wall. 5:03, second fastest start, but best velocity. And that's because of the problems that Friedrich had with that quicker getaway. Again, little uncomfortable transition in Snake. A bit of a wavy run through Sunny as well. Up and down a little, falls off Nash. Hits the wall out of Dixon up to Horseshoe. Not great height in Horseshoe, but a good landing. Telephone. Shamrock, not bad, good speed. He's ahead of Cedric Follador now by nearly 0.2 of a second. Speed is good, 76.3 miles an hour. Oh, but taps on the way down into Martineau and Portago. It should be enough to hold the lead, unless he rolls it off the final corner. It is a track record, it is the lead. So Adam Amor leads Cedric Follador and Brad Hall, with Francesco Friedrich in 4th place at the moment. Is this the day for Amor? There he is, vaulting into the sled. He loads. Behind him, brother Issam. Makes space for Joshua Tascher at 3 and Alexander Schaller at 4. Out late from the final fast right-hander, Gunter Sachs. Just tapped the wall on the outside. Matthias Höpfner, his driving coach, down there at the bottom. Next up, Switzerland's Mickey Vogt. His final World Cup appearance this season. Won't go to Altenburg. Dominic Huschmidt, Andy Haas, and Amadou Ndiaye, who was on the 2-man yesterday when they raced to 5th place. Mickey Vogt, 8th in the most recent race here, 4th in the one before that last season. He definitely has the potential here. 2 bronze medals in his 4-man World Cup career. The Swiss get in and down just about 5:06. 300s behind Adam Amor and his crew are current leaders, and just stays off the wall through King 2. It's been a red letter day for the Swiss women. Yesterday, Mel Hasler finished 2nd overall in the monobob behind Bree Walker and took European Championship gold. Today, she and Nadia Pasnak finished in the silver medal position behind Kaylee Humphries and Jasmine Jones, and they took the women's bobsleigh European gold. 500s back, oh, but a really uncomfortable transition. Telephone to Shamrock. And that's going to extend the advantage, surely. It does. He's 1400s back now, so Amor pulling away. And this is trying to stay ahead of his teammate Cedric Follador. Arrow straight out of Gunter Sachs. Second best speed. He's behind Follador on the splits, but gets ahead of him. No, he doesn't at the line. So 105.25, 600s behind Cedric Follador in third place, and 1200s ahead of Brad Hall, who's in fourth. Not the tidiest run from Mickey Vogt. And this is out of Telephone and Shamrock, and this is, oh no, that's not, that's out of Nash and Dixon. And then out of Horseshoe, skidding into Telephone, hits before the take on. Late off Telephone, flops off, skids towards Shamrock. Horseshoe is such a critical corner for speed. So yesterday's race winner and a silver and bronze medalist last season in the four-man Johannes Lochner with Torsten Margis, Jörn Wenzel and Georg Fleischhauer. 3 times winners this season in the four-man. 5:07 getaway, a tenth slower than Francesco Friedrich, but Lochner is driving out of his skin this season, and yesterday really let the sled fly down the track. Nice through wall. Little skids at the rear through Snake, but cleanly out of Sunny. In the red by just 200s. Here we go, the key corner of the track. Nice height. Nice Telephone, little skid into Shamrock. Tiniest tap going into Devil's Dyke. Second best speed, tiny advantage. Now the Bavarian has to just let the sled do its job. Ease it through these fast corners. Bring the speed down at the bottom of the track. It's not going to be big, but is he going to have a new track record and the lead? Yes, he does! By 900ths of a second. Two wins on this track in his career, 2 silver medals and 2 bronze for Hansi Lochner, and he has the lead in the first heat by not much. Won yesterday by 7900ths of a second in the two-man, and he predicted then the four-man will be much tighter, and so it is. 900ths ahead of Adam Amor. Another mile of ice between them and the finish line in the second heat. It is anybody's race. Well, there's Hansi on the right, Georg Fleischhauer with his back to us. Our 11th starter in the field of 28. Marcus Treichel, Sascha Stepan, who was on the two-man, Opper, Marcus Sammer, and Christian Huber on the back. His 60th World Cup race, his 57th as a driver, Treichel. Finished in 7th place in the race he did last year and in the World Championships in 2023. So he has got good potential here. 5 dead, great start, 700s quicker than leader Lochner. So he's in the green and the best velocity as well. So better velocity than Friedrich, who started quicker than him as well. Epic starting by the Swiss crew. They've outstarted Amor, they've outstarted Lochner. Only Friedrich's crew, who ran it too deep, have managed to be quicker than Treichel and his boys, and this is a good run so far. The gap is up from 700s to a 10th. Horseshoe will help. Smooth as silk. Beautiful run down out of Horseshoe. Keeping the speed alive, but just dropping back a fraction. Now, where's he losing the speed? Little skids at the back of the sled aren't helping. If you're dragging the back behind you and it's trying to carry straight on, it is dragging speed out of the sled. 1200s back becomes 3300s back, 5th place at the line. And again, you don't turn up on race day and then choose your runners. You choose your runners and polish them to mirror perfection the day before. And that means you're guessing what the weather will do, looking at the forecast and trying to figure out whether it'll be sunny or, like this morning in the women's race, whether it'll snow, whether it'll be over cloudy, whether it'll be a really cold overnight and it'll still be frosty. So it's a lot of second guessing of the weather. It looks as though they may have not guessed correctly on the runner choice, but ahead of Brad Hall and behind Mickey Vogt in the top 6. 12th of our starters, and celebrating his 50th four-man World Cup start is the first ever Youth Olympic champion in boys bobsleigh, Patrick Baumgartner. Last year, his best World Cup race of his career, a 6th place finish here in the 2nd race of the season. And a 5:09 getaway puts him in the frame, only 900s away, 200s rather, away from the leader, Johannes Lochner, but only the 6th best velocity, 400s back. And Baumgartner will use every centimetre of ice here to his advantage. He's a silky smooth driver, and on his day, he could be a contender. Through Nash and Dixon. Oh, little tap on the wall up to Horseshoe. Decent height, nice telephone, nice shamrock transition. Whoa, skids into Devil's Dyke, and that is going to cost him speed. Through tree and bridge, only the 5th best speed. Leap, and Gunter Sachs must be straight here, is straight here, but he's already a 1/4 second back. And this could be up to 4/10 at the line. No, 2800s, that's a good recovery. 500s in front of Marcus Treichel. 200s behind, 200s ahead of Mickey Vogt, and only 400s of Cedric Follador, who is still lying 3rd. So here at Horseshoe, climbs late and then has to roll it off. Little quick jab of the steering there, just pulling on those D-rings to get that rotation. Out of Shamrock, kind of misses Devil's Dyke a bit there, so losing speed below Telephone and Shamrock. Next up, Chris Horn. Crashed in training in the 2-man, did not manage to start the 2-man race. Did not manage to finish the 2-man race, rather, because he had a crash. And as a result, Carsten Vissering, with some fairly nasty burns on his shoulder, replaced by Ryan Rager in the team. Hunter Powell and Caleb Furnell are with him. Only the 7th World Cup start in 4-man for Chris Horn. Oh, and loses 2 men, loses a 3rd, and Chris Horn is on his own. Absolute disaster for the Americans. They can't believe it. Running it all the way down into turn 1 is always what the American 4-man teams have done, and it has its perils. Now, remember I told you when Francesco Friedrichs Brakeman didn't get in and he just thought they'd chosen the wrong runners and it was really skiddy? That was a 2-man, but this is probably what it looked and felt like. And Chris Horn knows that he's still going to be doing 85, 90 miles an hour with not enough weight to control the sled. And he knows that he crashed out at Telephone in the 2-man race. He's down safely into the forest, and now the corners are longer and more open and sweeping, and he's figured out trying to get this sled down in a straight line. I mean, for a driver with so little experience of this track, Chris Horn, what a job he's doing. Gets himself, he has no idea that who's left in the sled. Now he's got to get to the brakes. Works his way all the way back onto the back handles. That's where Caleb Furnell would be. Just, wow. If he ever has another day, I wish he never has another day like that, Chris Horn. Goodness me. Well, this is one that will be shown time and time again. Ryan Rager at 2, and the first problem is Hunter Powell at 3 stumbles, and they, oh goodness. So it's Ryan Rager at 2 who stumbles, and then Hunter Powell can't get in either. Hunter with the black helmet, he gets knocked out. Ryan Rager trying to hold himself into the sled. And then what does Caleb Furnell do? Well, he bails. Wow, Chris, I mean, you know, all the drivers shaking their heads. An absolute nightmare for the driver and for the crew. And there will be no second heat, I'm afraid, for Chris Horn either. So that's it. If everybody doesn't make it down, then it's an automatic disqualification. Well, Sam Moritz. General Secretary of the IBSF down there. Heike Kroswang, to Italian coach Manny Mahata. Can you give him a hand with the sled? Okay, well, everybody knows crashes can happen. Everybody knows misloads can happen. Hi, Marco Hubenbecker. But, okay, focus again for Taylor Austin of Canada. Keaton Brookeling, Mike Evelyn, and Shaq Murray-Lawrence at the back. And they will really be focusing now on getting into the sled, in and down into Kink 1. 5:06. Honestly, it doesn't matter if you do a 10:06, as long as you're in, then you do a fair better than if you don't make it in. Well, that was a good competitive start. Just missed the cut in the 2-man race, finished 21st, but in 4-man last year, 14th in race 1, 19th in race 2, so he definitely has the potential. And this year, well, missed the cut in the second race in Innsbruck with a very off-the-boil run, but 11th in Cortina, 11th in Lillehammer, 7th in the second race in Lillehammer, and 9th in Winterberg last week. He's been having a good 4-man season. 3/10 back, 4th at the start, late. And 8th best speed. We should see him in 8th place, ahead of Friedrich. He is ahead of Friedrich by 100th of a second.
Yes, sir! Come on!
Well, here again, coming out of Nash and Dixon, long skid, taps the wall, and he's still going sideways, coming into Horseshoe, still takes it right to the roof and drives it off. Coming a little late off Horseshoe, but saves the crash. Good reactions from Taylor Austin. Next up from Latvia is Jekabs Kalender. And there, the American crew still walking back up. Ryan Rager, Hunter Powell, and Caleb Furnell. What a day. So Canada with Lars Kaufmanns, who was on the 2-man behind him, joined by Mats Mignes and Ans Bibris. 10th in the 2-man, 8th and 12th in his last 4-man races here last year. Three World Cups here, and last year's 8th place was his best in Sam Moritz. Kind of underperformed a little, I thought, with 10th place yesterday in the 2-man, but let's see if he's got what it takes off a 5:09 start. 9th best start, still in 9th place as they come out of Sunny and into Nash and Dixon. To the left, that brings him closer to the right, coming into Horseshoe, little tap into telephone and very late. Ooh, that's as close as you want to get. 6th best speed, but that might drop after that big moment. There you go, 9th on the splits. Friedrich is currently in 9th. This is going to push Francesco Friedrich potentially to the bottom of the top 10. 8th best speed, he's dropped behind Friedrich. He'll be ahead of Mattia Variola. Yes, he's 600-700 behind Francesco Friedrich. And normally that means you're going to get a medal. One of the things that I don't do when I'm stat checking every day for Francesco Frigic is see when his last disastrous run was. Normally, because it's so many years ago, it doesn't really register. But today was one of those, that not big height from the Latvian, and that means you're in trouble on the edge. Look at the ice coming off the run as he really hauls it off and then hits very early before telephone, and almost the weight, that 400 kilos of bodies, almost rolls the sled off the wall. Next up, Dave Wesseling of the Netherlands absolutely flew yesterday to a comfortable top 8 finish in the 2-man. Now, can he do it in the 4-man? 9th World Cup start only for Wesseling. Raced here in 1 Europe Cup race, 1 Junior World Championships and 1 World Cup race. Best result of the season, of his career indeed, 10th place in Lillehammer. They're in, they're down. Is it a 0? No, it's a 5:10, but that's a good start as well for the Dutch crew. Jelen Francic at 3 was on the 2-man with him yesterday, and they were in floods because the top 8 guaranteed them an Olympic berth in the 2-man, and he is on the brink of doing it as well in the 4-man. Janko Francic, the older of the brothers, is at 2. Timmy Costa at 4. 11th on the splits. Nice up to Horseshoe. Great height, hits the woodwork hard though, but it brings him down beautifully into telephone. Skids into Shamrock. 13th best speed. Dropping out of the top 10. 11th place behind Calendar of Latvia. The speed isn't there. He's having to fight the sled a little too much. Nice out of Gunter Sachs. Taps between the final 2 corners and across the line. It's a top 10 run. 23rd last year, 10th in the first heat. And he crashed on the first run of 4-man training. He does not have any more 4-man runs since last season on this track. Boom, right in the woodwork. Now watch the runners. Massive steer off? No, not at all. He felt the force. Little flop out of telephone, skids into Shamrock. And you saw that cut in the ice. Dave, top 10 run. Now for France, Romain Heinrich, Niels Blairon, Antoine Rieu, who raced here last year with Boris Van from Monaco, and Dorian Hauteville. 36 World Cup races as a driver for Heinrich. Did 1 of the World Cup races here, the 2nd last year. He finally qualified the 4-man for World Cup, and he was 14th. 5:12 the start. We've just seen Wesseling come down in 10th place off a 5:10 start. 12th best start, 12th best velocity. Heinrich can drive. 9th place yesterday in the 2-man with Dorian Hauteville. Little skid down into Snake 1 and Snake 2, so we got a little too much of the 3rd pressure and wall. Little roll out of Sonny, rolls out of Nash into Dixon. He's fighting the rear of the sled, good height. Beautifully into telephone. Little slide into Shamrock. 3rd best speed in the forest for Romain Heinrich. The Frenchman is on fire. 4th best speed into 8th place. 3/10 back. If he's clean out of Gunter Sachs, no, big skids, but it should still be a top 10 run. Speed is not bad. Across the line in 6th position. What a run from Romain Heinrich of France. 17th sled down and 6th fastest. 6th fastest off the 12th fastest start, and that's what they did yesterday in the 2-man. Whoa, very late height in Gunter Sachs, and they nearly rolled off there. He knew they weren't going to, but he couldn't stop it hitting the wall. That's a big drive from Roman Heinrich. Next up, Sun Kai Chi. His best result here, 13th place in January 2024. Last season, 19th and 20th, just scraping into the second heat. Missed the cut comprehensively in yesterday's two-man. In and down in a 5.12, same as we just seen from Roman Heinrich. 11th best velocity off the 12 start. So carrying a little bit better speed, and at this stage, only 500s off the leader. That's out to 1200s. And sliding around in Snake. Taps going into Sonny. He'll slide out of Sonny. Down through Nash and Dixon. Big skid into Dixon. Big skid out of Dixon. Got to straighten it up for Horseshoe. Carries height. Takes it nicely into Telephone. Skidding into Shamrock though. Not great speed. It was ruined early on. And he's still fighting the back of the sled. Runners are too fat. He's got no control of the back of the sled. Even with all that weight behind the front axle, the rear is doing a lot of steering. Once these things get out of line, you have to really wrestle them back. Good speed at the bottom for 13th place. Well, currently on target to equal his best. A great view of the road coming up, or the track coming up towards them in the mirrored visor there. But look at this, Nash to Dixon. Falling off Nash, skidding into Dixon, comes out sideways. Back of the sled is doing all the driving. He's just fighting it. Big height, early touch on the woodwork. Holds it up, holds it up, holds it up, holds it up, rolls it off. Well, he judged that nicely. And with all the G-forces there in Horseshoe, the back actually following the front. But the runner choice has not been great. Now, what about Timo Rona? Cedric Follador's third, Mickey Vogt is fifth for Switzerland. Rona was Silbieri, Livio Matossi, and Mathieu Herzberger. Great to see Silbieri back in harness as well. Rona yesterday 11th in the end in the two-man. Stay off the wall. 5:20 start. So 1300s behind Hansi Lochner, the leader. 17th best start, 15th best velocity, so another good load. And last season's results here, a 6th and a 7th in the four-man, remain the best two World Cup four-man results of his career. 16th on the splits. He's going to need a really big run here. Again, not great height. Smoothie into Telephone, little skid into Shamrock, 6th best speed. This might bring him into the top 10. Track is running fast. He's fighting the back of the sled as well. It's slithering around behind him. 4th best speed from Timo Rona. Father Marcel was one of Swiss standout bobsleds at the end of the 90s, early 2000s. 2nd best speed at the bottom for 8th place. So Timo Rona in 8th place. Mickey Vogt in 5th, Cedric Follador in 3rd. All three Swiss sleds in the top 10, but he's not happy with that run. Too much slithering around. I think the sun coming out at lunchtime has changed the track in a way that not many people were expecting. The fatter the runner, more like the width of your thumb than your little finger, the faster they cross the ice, but the less control you have. Everybody goes for the fattest they can fit, about an 8 mil radius on the front, but they're looking at sort of 6.5, 6.75, 7 on the back. Maybe a few are going too fat. 20th sled is the 21-year-old Latvian Reinars Grantins. Edgars Nemeth taking over for the sick Edgar Zungards, who was on his two-man yesterday, joined by Davs Kaufmannis and Maris Klaver. Finished 15th in the two-man. He's in early, and they're in and down beautifully. It's a 5:14 start. It's only his 6th four-man World Cup, a rookie this season in the World Cup, just 21 years of age. And this is already the third different four-man that he's driven this season. They started him off in an elderly Singer. When he didn't wreck that, they gave him a Valner sled. Now that drove completely differently and confused him for a bit. Now they've got in a BTC, which feels more like his two-man sled. 15th at the start, still 15th on the splits, up to 14th on the splits, but the speed as he's flopping off these corners is dropping. 13th best speed, he's picking it up again. Still in 14th place on the splits, and this will put him ahead of Sun Kai-chi and close to his teammate Jekib's Calendar. Calendar is 13th of the line, 11th best speed. Is he ahead of his teammate? No, he's not. 105.68. And he's 1700ths behind Jekib's Calendar. Well, that's a decent-looking run from Reynars Grantins. Raced here in the Youth Olympic Games in 2020 and raced here in the two-man yesterday. And that's his total knowledge of this track as a driver. And that's an impressive run in a four-man, because he's never driven a four-man down here before this week. Big smile on his face, and so there should be. So, Hansi Lochner, Adam Amor, Cedric Follador, your top. Look behind the top two. Look at how tight that battle is. This is going to be epic. 21st sled. The race is full. The remaining 7 or 8 sleds, there are 19 places in the race taken already. So, Pat Norton, 21st away, will be 20th down. 5:14, same as we've just seen from Reynars Grantins. Now, Norton's got a little bit more experience here. Raced in the Worlds in 2023. He was 20th then, 13th in both races last year. And Pat's had some good results. The best of 9th place this season in Lillehammer. Another long flowing track. Little tap there as he comes out of Sunny. And a skid out of Dixon, needs the height. Nice, quiet telephone. Smoothly into Shamrock. Speed is good. Up to 12th. Speed is better. The quieter the sled in your ears, the higher the speed is going to be, because he's not hitting things. 8th best speed. This could be top 10 for Pat Norton. He's going to be close. Across the line, he is 10th. 105.40. And that will have felt every bit a top 10 run in the back seats. A little skiddy early on, but once they felt that big pressure of Horseshoe, everything was a lot quieter. And when you're in the back of one of these sleds, it is near silence. If you've got your head up like the driver, the wind whistles past your helmet. If you're buried like the brakemen, you hear the tiniest patter of the runners on the ice, and you can actually hear the track announcer, even at 80 miles an hour. Li Chunjan for China. Now we have 20 sleds who have successfully completed the run. Jakub Prochaska is 20th. And so it is now Li or Prochaska. It is now, for the remaining 7 sleds, go fast or go home. February 2020, 7th place here. Not only his best in St. Moritz, it remains his career best four-man result. This year, he's missed the cut 3 of 5 starts. A best of 12th last week in Winterberg, and a 5:13 start. Well, we've just seen Pat Norton of 5:14 go 10th fastest. So it is possible. The track is fast and is staying fast. And that's one of the joys of St. Moritz, is that the track holds its speed. Little slithery through Snake. Sun's out at Sunny. Just avoids the wall at Monty's Bolt, but late into Nash, late out of Dixon, low into Horseshoe, has to take late height, brings it down nicely. Oh, rolls off telephone almost. Gathers it back up, 11th best speed. 15th at the start, still 15th, but 7th best speed. If he can keep it error-free here, this could be in the top 12 as well. Little tap on the wall out of Gunter Sachs, 8th best speed. Taps between Martineau and Portago. And at the line, still 15th, 105.54, 1400s behind the Canadian sled of Pat Norton, and 5 spots back. That's how close this is. But he is in 15th, and Jakub Prochaska knows now that he will not get a second heat.
20 seconds, 5 sekundas,
Well, it wasn't a bad looking run. Out of telephone, relatively smooth for Lee Chun-jan. Gave away a bit of speed, otherwise that would have been top 10. So our 23rd starter, Romania's Mihai Tentea, with Constantin Dinescu, Andrei Nică, who was on the back of the two-man with him yesterday, and Mihai Pacianu at 4. 11 races here, 4 World Cups, a best here of 15th place in the first race last year. 5:22 getaway. Finished in 14th yesterday in the two-man. 21st at the start. He likes to take a high line through wall. He did yesterday in the two-man, sliding around through Snake. Needs to come straight out of Sunny, pretty much. Not a bad Nash and Dixon transition. Too far left, coming into Horseshoe. Doesn't get the speed, acceleration, taps into telephone, falls off telephone and Shamrock. 11th best speed. Driving himself into the race at the moment. He'll need to put 3 or 4 sleds behind him to be guaranteed a second heat. 10th best speed, 18th, he's picking them off. Not bad out of Gunter Sachs, 7th best speed for Mihai Tentea of Romania. 15th at the line, 16th at the line. 105.60, 600s behind Lee Chun-jan. Well, that should mean that he gets the second heat guaranteed. So Jakub Prochaska of the Czech Republic and Jakub Jarewski of Poland do not go through. Didn't have the best height in Horseshoe. Had to drive it off quite hard into telephone. There's the big hit before you actually get to telephone. Named because there was a field telephone there. You could phone the start and say, I've crashed off Horseshoe, please send help. That was in the old days, long before cameras existed. All right, so-so for Mihai Tentea, but he should get a second heat. Next up, Frank Del Duca, 7th in the two-man yesterday, 16th and 11th here last year, and his best result of the season, 2 16th place finishes in the four-man. He's not been out of the top 6 until yesterday in the two-man. In and down, 5:11, great start. Trying to keep it smooth, nobody moved back there. 800s off the leader, 400s off at the start. Ooh, slithering through Snake. And down to Sunny. Again, looks like there's not quite enough control at the back. Through Nash and Dixon, he's skidding as well. Needs height in Horseshoe. Medium high, little flop off telephone. Wrong side of Devil's Dyke. That's going to leave him struggling to get onto Nameless, and hits Tree pretty firmly on the take-on. 7th on the splits, but only the 16th best speed. This should still be a top 10 run, but the speed is really going away. Frank Del Duca, I think, for the first time, has a four-man run that he will be moderately happy with. He has been so lost in the four-man this season, and if you're going to find it 2 races before the Olympic Games. Well, a 9th best run You know, I talked to him in Lillehammer, he was 21st. He said, that felt like a top 12 run, not a bottom of the top 20 run. This is better. Wasn't a great exit out of Horseshoe, because he came in low. He had to drive it out pretty hard. And then Horseshoe to Telephone, that knocks on through Shamrock to Devil's Dyke. And so you're skidding away.
Thank you everyone back home. Thank you so much, we appreciate it.
Well, that was definitely a better run. So he is in, and out goes Kim of Korea, unbelievably. Mattia Variola in the drop zone now for Matej Behenek of the Czech Republic, with Michal Dobesh behind him, Andre Rapp, who was the two-man brakeman yesterday, and Antonin Vijas. 24th yesterday, 21st start here, 5:18, but the starts are all so close together. A couple of hundred slower than some of your rivals. On this track, you can make up for that. 21st at the start, up to 19th already. So Behenek is in the race at the moment at the expense of Italy's Mattia Variola. And actually, looks like he's got a bit more control in the sled. Makes me a liar immediately coming out of Dixon and hitting the wall. Very low line in Horseshoe and falls off Telephone. Speed is not great, only 17th fastest, and he's dropped out of the race. Now 9th best speed. The track is really flying. Down at the bottom, is it enough to make the race? Him or Mattia Variola? I don't think he's got it, he doesn't. So 22nd at the line, Coach Dominic Dvorak walks away from the monitor. It all went wrong coming out of Nash and Dixon. They've been so troublesome. Horseshoe has been really hard this year for everybody. But Nash and Dixon skidding up towards Horseshoe means you come in very low. You have to really rip it off the corner, and then you batter the wall. Hits it before you get to Telephone. You kind of skid around the bottom of Telephone, fall off, skid into Shamrock. Have to try another time. Jakob Mandelbauer next up for Austria. That's 26 sled with 2 races fewer in the World Cup than Matej Behenek, who's just gone in front of him. Sebastian Mitter, Diane Nichols-Bardi, and Daniel Betzler are the crew. 19th yesterday in the two-man, 22nd in race 1 last year, 9th in race 2, 5:12, the 13th best start. That gives him a real chance. Can see a lot of the heads behind. They're not tucked down out of the airflow like you expect. 13th at the start, still in 13th place. Can Mandelbauer produce a big drive here? Mattia Variola of Italy in 20th place is in the danger zone. 13th up to 10th on the splits. He's going to be low in Horseshoe. Comes out nicely though, 9th on the split, skids into Shamrock, rattles Devil's Dyke, but the second best speed. The track is getting faster and faster and faster. Top 6. He was 9th after 2 runs in the last World Cup race here, and he's going to match that at the bottom maybe. This should be a top 10 run. Where is he at the line? He's 9th. Big run from Jakob Mandelbauer. 19th yesterday in the two-man, 9th in the first heat. His best ever World Cup result, the last race here in St. Moritz last year, and that was a 9th place finish. And despite that, Telephone, Shamrock, Devil's Dyke, which everybody has struggled with, a good run down below Horseshoe. Little tap away going into Gunter Sachs. Well spotted in the truck, but a 9th place run ahead of Frank Del Duca, Brad Hall, and the rest. So 2 to go. Martin Krantz of Liechtenstein. 3 World Cups here. The first they didn't get a finish because one of the guys didn't get in the sled, and he's had a 20th and a 21st place finish last year. Lawrence Lenhair, Tim Kessler, the two-man brakeman, and David Schoffen, and they're in and down, so they've crossed that first hurdle. 5:23, just a little slither and attack with the wall. 25th start, 21st velocity. This is a young driver, just 23, one of the youngest in the field. Little skid down into Snake. 24th on the splits. Nice out of Sonny. Nice run out of Nash and Dixon. Up to Horseshoe, needs height, gets it. Needs a clean landing, gets it. Telephone, skids to Shamrock, 9th best speed, taps Devil's Dyke but lightly. Top 10 speeds, so now you see that number rotating, but suddenly only the 18th best speed. Little extra height there. And down into Martineau and Portago. It should be a top 20 run. 18th on the splits. Where's he going to end up? 18th place, 105.56. One sled to go. He is in the second heat. There's the Liechtenstein friends and family, the national colours waving there. And this is effectively home track for them. It is the closest track to Vaduz, the capital of Liechtenstein. And Martin Krantz, 18th in the first heat. He will get a second run. Reynars Grantins of Latvia now in the drop zone. Well, lots of moving around in the back of the sled, but yes, there you go. Makes the cut again. So he's made the cut in each of his 3 World Cup races this season. Andrei Turea, the final sled for Romania, has not. So 23rd in the two-man race yesterday, 25th in race 2 last year, the one he competed in. And that remains his best World Cup result in 4 starts. This year, 29th in Cortina, 30th in Eagles. He's been racing in Europe Cup since then, picking up more points. Only the 5th World Cup start for this Romanian driver. In and down. Do they get in before Kink 1? Yes. It's a 5:34, so that leaves them with a lot of work to do. 27th at the start, and a little skid off Kink 2. Trying to keep it straight. They're moving around behind him. That's definitely not helping. So missed the first pressure there in Wall. Skids out of Wall into Snake. Skids through Snake. Back in instead, moving around. It might just be that he's a little bit aggressive with his steering inputs. It's one thing getting the nose to go where you want it, but you've got to get the rest of the sled to follow. Nice Horseshoe, nice Telephone, nice Shamrock, and look at the speed! Look at the speed! 5th best speed, 7th best speed. Is this going to be enough? Is this going to get Andrei Turea into the top 20? The speed is excellent. Still 25th on the splits. I don't think it's enough. He's close, but not close enough. 106.10. All right, does not make it in, but he is in 25th place. Matches his previous best in Eagles and last year here in St. Moritz. Not a massive improvement, but it is only his 5th four-man World Cup. And again, the crew trying to coordinate all 4 men, breaking the inertia of the sled. Came late into Horseshoe, let the sled climb, had to really drive it off hard. But he put it nicely down into Telephone. Look at that. Skidding around at the back though. Could have done with slightly finer runners on the back and a bit more control, but there you go. So at the other end of the field, our leader is yesterday's race winner and the dominant force in the 4-man this season, Johannes Lochner. It wasn't perfect, he didn't have the fastest ice, but he does have the track record in the first heat and a lead of not much, but it is a lead. Well, even coming out 10th, we saw that 20 sleds later, the track was really flying. Lachlan leads by 900s. It's a two-horse race, it seems, for gold. Then Follador, Baumgartner, Vogt, Heinrich, Treichel, Rona, Mandelbauer, Del Duca. We're looking at 200 or 300s. Brad Hall 100th behind Del Duca. Norton 3 behind him. Austin 3 behind him. Friedrich 1 behind. Friedrich, hello! 14th, 1 behind him. Wesseling 4 behind Friedrich and 3. I mean, it's just insanely tight, isn't it? And Sunkai Chi, Mattia Variola, Kim Jin-soo, Matti Bahunek, Andrei Terrer, Jakub Jarewski, Jakub Prochaska, and Chris Horn do not get a second run. So, enough action for you in the first heat? All right, 20 sleds to go in the second. Join me again, 2:45 CET, 1:45 GMT, 08:45 for the final run of the four-man here in St. Moritz. You cannot miss it in just over 30 minutes from now.